I had been married to Chase for 7 years, and he had always played the part of the perfect husband everyone envied. When he found out I was pregnant, he was so excited he bought me a private island. Grace, it feels like I'm dreaming. I swear, I'll spend my whole life loving you and our baby. But the next day, when I went to Sterling to drop off some papers for Chase, I walked into his office and saw him kissing Livia so deeply they'd forgotten the world. Chase, do you love me? Chase's eyes burned as he pinned Livia beneath him, like he wanted to swallow her whole. Of course. I could keep making love to you until the end of time. I understood then, 7 years of feelings had been nothing but smoke. After the termination procedure at Riverdale, I wandered the streets in a daze. On a towering billboard screen above the avenue, the montage clip Chase had made for me was still playing on loop, 7 years of our love story whirling past. A young girl beside me clasped her hands, face full of longing. Wow, Mrs. Sterling is so lucky. They say Mr. Sterling bought her a whole private island the moment he found out she was pregnant. When will I ever land a husband that rich, handsome, and devoted? Her friend wrinkled her nose. I heard the first time Mr. Sterling saw Mrs. Sterling, it was love at first sight. If she wanted the moon, he'd charter a rocket. Dream all you want, but tonight you'd better wash up and go to bed early. Yes, in everyone's eyes, Chase loved me madly. Loved me, and only me. I adored fireworks, so every birthday he'd buy every display in the city just to coax a smile. If I simply said I missed him, he'd drop anything, even a $10 million contract, and rush to my side. The instant he learned I was pregnant, he bought me a tiny island off the Maldives as a bump gift. Yet that same adoring Chase was fooling around with the new assistant at Sterling. The thought stabbed me so sharply I had to press a hand to my chest. Chase didn't come home until night. He slipped his arms around my waist and rained kisses across my face. Mommy, was our little angel good today? You're the hero of this family. In 3 months I'll take you and the baby snorkeling on our island, watch sunsets, bake in the sun. I'm hoping for a girl, she'd be as beautiful as you. But a boy would be great too, he and I could protect Mommy together. I listened with zero interest, gaze drifting away. Noticing my flat response, he leaned down and gently caught my earlobe between his teeth. Grace, are you mad I haven't had time for you lately? Don't worry, my love, tonight I'm all yours. The words turned my stomach. I shoved him away hard. Now, every second spent beside him felt like torture. I'm not feeling well. Don't touch me. He didn't get upset. He simply turned and tied on an apron. Whatever my queen says. Wife comes first. You must be starving. I'll cook you some congee, add jumbo shrimp and 2 sea cucumbers, okay? Since our wedding ceremony, Chase had handled every single one of my meals. I'd told him more than once he didn't have to, even offered to let Mrs. Housekeeper do it, but he insisted. Grace, I love you, so I want to. Everyone envied me for snagging the perfect husband, but people change. Sometimes Chase didn't even notice himself growing absent in the kitchen. He braised base and splashed in vinegar instead of soy sauce. He made sweet and sour pork but used salt instead of sugar. I chalked it up to work fatigue. Now I see, the signs were always there. Lies roll off the tongue, details don't. Love hides in details, so does the end of love. While he set out the ingredients for congee, my iPhone chimed. Livia had sent photos of herself on a bed in a bunny costume. Chase Bear, come quickly, Bunny can't wait to see you. A minute later the pictures were hastily unsent. Sorry, Grace. Meant for my boyfriend, don't read into it. The girl's intention was crystal clear. She hadn't accidentally texted me, she'd done it on purpose. Chase wandered over with a glass of fresh OJ he'd just squeezed. My queen, congee coming right up. Drink this first, vitamin C boost. I lowered my eyes, said nothing, accepted the glass and set it aside. A minute later his screen lit with a notification. Reading it, his pupils sparked with delight. Livia must have forwarded the same photo to him. He sneaked a glance at me, then guiltily rubbed his nose. Sterling's got an emergency, babe, gotta run. He bent to stroke my belly tenderly. Be good to Mommy while Daddy's gone, little one. Or I'll spank you when you get out. Instantly he wired $100,000 to my account. Buy whatever you're craving, Grace. Don't let our baby starve. I forced a tiny smile and said goodbye. Chase didn't know the child he doted on was already gone, killed by his betrayal, killed by my broken heart. Livia was a new intern at Sterling. At first Chase griped about her nonstop. These new girls can't even work a damn printer. Especially that Livia, hopeless. But later his tone shifted. Livia's like a little kid, adorably clueless sometimes. Today she ran through a downpour just to fetch one file for me. Guess what? The folder stayed dry, she was soaked head to toe. Remembering this, my vision blurred. I opened Livia's Instagram. On the night she'd been drenched, she'd posted a selfie, lying in a man's bare arms. "Thanks for buying me this dress, big brother, and for being so sweet that you even changed me into it. How else can I repay you except with myself?" All I remembered was that night Chase had said he was working late at Sterling. I didn't even dare imagine what had happened between them. Frantically, I scrolled to the very bottom of Livia's Instagram, and I found that every hour he'd once claimed to be busy was now proof of his affair. While I was burning up with fever, he had accompanied Livia to pick up the newest designer bag. While morning sickness kept me from eating, he and Livia went to a temple, burning incense and praying for a love that lasted forever. More than that, Chase and Livia checked into the presidential suite and spent hours tangled in the sheets. I didn't know when Chase had turned into this man. 7 years ago, fresh out of college and certain the world was mine, I'd refused a seat at any of the top-ranked family firms. So I traveled alone to a neighboring state and joined Sterling as an intern. Chase fell for me the instant we met. Under his relentless pursuit, I surrendered before long. The day he proposed, he bought every firework in the city. As the sky blossomed, he made me a vow. "Grace, fireworks fade, but my love for you will never burn out." I said yes, and 7 years slipped by just like that. I thought I would stay happy forever, until Livia showed up. How ironic. 7 years later, my husband was cheating on the new intern again. Fate really does love its funny little circles. That night I received a photo from Livia meant to taunt me. In it, she and Chase were kissing like they couldn't breathe. "Sis Grace, it's been ages since Mr. Sterling touched you, right? He says you're getting old and Morgan, not as cute as me." When I thought about it, Chase and I had barely been intimate this past year. Every time he leaned in, I pushed him away. A month ago, after a few drinks, he got amorous and called me Livia. That night he whispered filthy endearments I'd never heard from him before, and he worked harder than ever. I'd even thought he was bringing up work. Now I realized he'd simply pretended I was Livia. After that one time, I conceived this child. Chase's love could be split in two. He could play couple games with Livia for hours, then hurry home and slip back into the role of perfect husband. I used to scoff at the idea that men think with their pants. Now I had to believe it. I was tired. Or rather, I had no interest in keeping up Chase's performance any longer. I called my father. "Dad, I want to come home." On the other end he sounded anxious. "Sweetheart, what happened?" I gave a bitter laugh and sighed. "He cheated. I want a divorce." I could feel him forcing himself to stay calm. "All right. Daddy supports whatever you decide. I'll be home in a couple of days." Sometimes you realize your parents are the best safety net and retreat you have. After I hung up, I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke, Chase had laid a lavish breakfast across the table. Everything I usually loved. "Lazy piglet, you looked so peaceful I didn't dare wake you. Starving? Come on, eat up." I pretended not to notice the hickey on his neck. I had no appetite, I only drank a glass of cold milk. Seeing this, he set a bowl of steaming seafood ramen in front of me. "Sweetheart, you've got to eat more. You're carrying our baby now. You can't skip meals like when you dieted." When he leaned close I caught a perfume that wasn't mine. I couldn't help gagging. "New cologne?" Panic flicked across his eyes. He covered it by rubbing his nose. "You know Sterling's full of young girls. I must have brushed against someone while we worked late last night. If you hate it, I'll ban every perfume in the company, okay? After all, you and the baby are the most important people in my life." I sat there absorbing his fake affection without a word. After breakfast he looked at me solemnly. "Grace, Sterling's throwing its victory banquet later. Come with me. I want everyone to envy the wife I have." I didn't feel like going, then decided it might be the last corporate event we ever attended together. Think of it as saying goodbye to the woman I used to be. Before, at every public function Chase had to attend, he brought me without fail. He would hold my hand and announce to the room, "I want the whole world to know this woman is mine." As CEO, Chase attracted plenty of eager socialites. He turned every one of them down. "Sorry, I love only my wife." At the banquet, same as always, he kept my hand in his. In the crowd I spotted Livia in a white dress that stood out as much as mine. When our eyes met, jealousy flooded her face. Male employees from other firms were already circling her. "So, Livia, do you have a boyfriend?" Livia lifted her glass, smiling brightly. "Me? Absolutely single." "What, planning to chase me?" Then she glanced our way, the look loaded. Sis Grace, not everyone has a CEO husband like yours, right? I pretended ignorance and answered quietly. What's outstanding depends on who's looking. Sometimes what you're scheming to get is exactly what I'm getting rid of. I stepped past her. Chase looked stiff and embarrassed. He hurried after me. A moment later he stopped. Sweetheart, let me grab you some warm water. I nodded and wandered off alone. The flashing lights and tension of the event gave me a headache. I texted Chase that I needed fresh air and headed for the corridor. At the foot of the stairs I heard a man and a woman panting. Normally I'd keep walking, but those voices were disturbingly familiar. Chase, when are you finally going to divorce that woman? I'm sick of sneaking around like this. Chase was breathing hard. Shut your mouth and remember your place. I only love Grace, no one else. Don't ever bring this up again. If Grace finds out and gets upset, I'll. Livia grumbled under her breath, clearly dissatisfied. Chase answered by pinning her beneath him in one aggressive motion. He began to drive into her, frantic and relentless. Livia's deliberately stifled cries followed, mingling with Chase's tightly restrained groans. I gave a bitter smile. 7 years of my life poured down the drain. In the past I would have screamed, collapsed, made a scene. Now I felt nothing, my heart didn't even ache. I tiptoed out of the suite, crossed the hotel lawn, and let the night settle over me like a cool, quiet quilt. Half an hour later Chase came hurrying across the grass. Grace, where did you go? I looked everywhere. Finally got you a glass of water from the front desk. I stared at his clumsy performance, too numb to expose the lie. Maybe remembering what he'd just done, he rubbed his nose, guilt flickering across his face. Grace, on your way back, you didn't see anything, did you? He watched me, flustered, fishing for reassurance. I held his gaze without blinking. A long moment passed before I spoke, voice flat. No. What do you think I could have seen? He exhaled, relieved, and draped his tailored suit jacket over my shoulders. Grace, someone told me a story on the way over. A man who swore he loved his wife still ended up cheating. Tell me, do all men eventually lose interest? A shadow slid through Chase's eyes. Of course not. Set your mind at ease. Even if every man on earth strayed, I never would. His hollow vows sounded almost funny. I tamped down the surge of emotion. I want to go home. Chase slipped an arm around my waist. Absolutely, I'll go with you. The assistants can handle the rest. My biggest job right now is spoiling my beautiful wife. Grace, your birthday's in a few days. Let's escape to the private island, just the two of us. That night he announced in the Sterling group chat that the entire staff was getting a long weekend, so the CEO could celebrate his wife's birthday. Messages flooded my iPhone. Thanks, Grace. Without you we'd never score paid leave. You're my idol, sis Grace. Have fun, both of you. One text stood out, Livia's. Grace, do you think the boss would rather endure your dull birthday dinner or play risque dress up with me? Sure enough, later that evening Chase wore a face full of apology. Grace, I'm sorry, I have to break our birthday plan. Emergency trip. I'll make it up to you when I get back, okay? I nodded, numb. I should have seen it coming. He leaned in, lips brushing my ear. Grace, what gift do you want? Name it, anything. The newest Birkin? The latest couture? My real wish was to walk away and never look back. Out loud I only shook my head. Nothing. I already have too much. No, I'll never think it's enough. He kissed my cheek, smiled, and headed out the door. The instant he left I packed my suitcase, laid the Riverdale termination procedure receipt on the table, zipped every photo and chat record Livia had sent me into one folder, and forwarded the folder to the Sterling group as well as every partner on Chase's mailing list. Then I powered my iPhone off, boarded the next flight home, and whispered into the dark cabin, "Goodbye, Chase. Chase, let's play patient and nurse today, okay?" The words had barely left her mouth when Livia, wearing a crisp nurse outfit, stethoscope around her neck, syringe in hand, swiveled her hips toward him. For some reason even that scene left him cold. After they'd finished he suddenly missed Grace's shy compliance. Though they'd been married 7 years, she still blushed every time they made love. He dialed her number again and again, always hearing the same recorded message. "Sorry, the number you have reached is switched off." Agitated, he pulled out a cigarette he'd sworn off months ago, then pictured Grace wrinkling her nose at the smell and tossed the whole pack into the trash bin. He raked his hands through his hair until it stood up like a haystack. She must still be angry that he'd skipped her birthday. Maybe when he got home he'd cook her favorite meal, surprise her. Thinking that, he glanced at Livia and frowned. It's freezing. Stop parading around half-naked. Livia puffed her cheeks. But you love it. Come on, you're just playing hard to get. She plopped onto his lap, arms winding expertly around his neck. Before, that coquettish move would have pushed him over the edge. Now he felt absolutely nothing. At that moment the company secretary called. Boss, check the news, fast. You and Miss Shaw are all over it. Our stock price is tanking, and partners are canceling contracts left and right. Chase snatched his iPhone. Headlines screamed across the screen, intimate photos of him and Livia, while commenters tore the affair apart. Call the press team, get this buried, he roared. Panic clawed at him, not for the company, but for Grace. He could handle her rage, her tears. He couldn't stand the thought of her slipping away in silence, especially now that she carried his child. Livia piped up from the bed. Chase, I checked, it's that bitch Grace who leaked our pictures to the media. Disgusting. Chase's eyes flared, he seized her shoulders in a bruising grip. Grace couldn't have had those shots, did you send them to her? Livia stammered, her guilty face saying it all. Chase took one look and understood everything in an instant. Without a second thought, he slapped Livia across the face, once, then again, his hand showing no mercy. Don't imagine I don't know exactly why you did this. Let me tell you, even if Grace never wants me back, I will never marry you. What Livia couldn't grasp was why the man who had once loved her so fiercely had turned into this stranger. She had schemed and clawed her way to his side for one reason, to take Grace's place. Their first night together? She'd poured the drinks herself. After that came a second, a third, each time easier. Watching Chase fall deeper for her, she'd felt victory within reach, until everything flipped upside down. She refused to accept that every ounce of effort might dissolve into ash. Before she could even process the loss, she tried one last plea. She wriggled into that bunny costume he used to love and lunged to bury herself in his arms. Chase never even looked at her, he simply shoved her to the floor. The next second came the sharp slam of the lobby door. He was gone. He had to find Grace, had to explain everything face to face. Livia had been nothing more than a cheap shot of adrenaline. Grace was the one he truly loved. He floored the accelerator the whole way, blasting through red after red, not caring about the horns or the risk. All he wanted was to reach Grace faster and whisper the apology choking him. When he finally flung the apartment door open, silence greeted him. Moving like a robot, he stepped forward and spotted a single sheet of paper on the dining table. A nameless dread seized him, the paper trembled in his grip. It took forever for his eyes to focus. Grace's termination procedure report. It felt as though knives were slicing his heart strip by strip until he couldn't breathe. Why would she end their pregnancy without a word? The Grace he knew couldn't hurt a beetle in the grass. She bought cans of cat food for every stray kitten in the neighborhood. How could that same woman quietly walk into a clinic and erase their child? He refused to believe it, he couldn't. Yet the evidence glared back at him, every trace of her life had vanished. Photos from their wedding, the handbags he'd surprised her with, even their wedding rings, everything lay cold and abandoned in the trash bin. Grace had drawn a line in indelible ink, she was gone for good. Chase dropped to his knees, tears carving hot paths down his cheeks. Just then the doorbell rang. With a frantic surge of hope, he stumbled toward the entrance. It had to be Grace, she must have realized she couldn't live without him and come home. Yes, it had to be Grace. The moment the door opened, the smile froze and cracked on his face. Outside stood a mild-looking man in a tailored suit. Good afternoon. Are you Chase? I've been asked by Grace to deliver this agreement for your signature. Miss Sterling said this is her birthday wish and begs you to honor it, whatever the cost. Chase's fingers shook as he accepted the pages. Across the top, 3 words glared back at him, divorce papers. His body swayed, his eyes burned red. Grace truly meant never to see him again. Half-crazed, Chase rushed to building security and demanded every second of lobby footage until they located her. Camera after camera showed the same thing, Grace tugging a single suitcase, face calm, almost happy. Unwilling to concede, he ordered every Sterling employee to track any sign of his wife. Not one person turned up a single clue proving Grace had ever existed inside those walls. Panic finally clawed its way into his throat. When my flight landed, my father was already waiting in the arrivals hall, the entire senior board of Vance Holdings flanking him. The old man in the handmade suit squeezed my hands the instant he saw me. Sweetheart, whatever happened between you and that boy, Dad will always be your mountain. I'm turning Vance Holdings over to you. I'm old, worn out. The future belongs to you kids now. I smiled and nodded. Dad, I'd decided we should cut off every investment in Chase's company. Back when we married, I'd never told him I was Richard's daughter. I'd planned to share the news after our baby arrived. Looking back, that reveal was pointless. He assumed he'd given me the world, blind to how much more I'd quietly given him. Without Vance Holdings working behind the curtain, how could a lone Chase have turned his startup into a 9-figure success in a handful of years? 3 months later, I passed every exam the board threw at me and officially became chairwoman of Vance Holdings. I changed my phone number, took a new legal name, and deleted every social account I'd ever touched. If you mean to disappear, you do it completely. Chase once held me and swore in a voice like velvet, "Grace, I will belong to you for the rest of my life." After I met you, winter melted and every star in the river of sky kept shining just for us. I will always be your Chase, forever and a day. Yet only 7 years later, every promise lay broken. Under my sweeping overhaul, Vance Holdings doubled its profit in a single fiscal cycle. At the victory banquet, we invited every partner, large and small. I finished my keynote and spotted a familiar silhouette below the stage. He stared as though I were some sacred relic he was afraid to touch. Months had hollowed him, his eyes held no light, his jacket and trousers didn't even match, and several gray strands glinted in his hair. Back when we lived together, I used to lay out tomorrow's ensemble every night, balancing color and cut to the last button, never the careless mismatch he wore now. Clearly life had been rough since I left. As I stepped from the dais, a voice cracked behind me. "Grace." Chase's eyes were bloodshot as he approached one slow foot at a time. "Grace, I never imagined you'd rise this high, Miss Sterling of Vance Holdings." I took the bouquet he offered, set it on a nearby table, and answered with polite detachment. "I'm sorry, you have the wrong person. My name is Sterling Jia." He fought to steady his voice. "Grace, I'd recognize you anywhere. These past months I've fallen asleep staring at your photos night after night. You have no idea." A thin, mocking smile curved my lips. "Chase, the Grace you knew is dead, she's no longer your wife." Chase threw his head back and let out a raw, anguished howl. "Grace, why are you doing this to me? How could you kill our baby without saying a word? How can you be so selfish? We're husband and wife, what gives you the right to stop loving me just like that?" He was the one who had cheated, the one who fell for Livia. Yet now he dared to accuse me of heartlessness, painting me as the villain. Ridiculous. I gave him a cool, fleeting glance. "Chase, nothing you say matters anymore. I don't love you." But Chase refused to back down. "Grace, I don't believe you. After everything we've shared, you just walk away? Besides, I only made the mistake any man might make." He was too confident. So sure it was a petty slip, so sure I'd love him forever. I burst out laughing. "Chase, enough. The more you grovel, the more convinced I am that I was blind." By now several onlookers were whispering. "Isn't that the guy who called himself the doting husband king? Guess every tomcat strays. He ditched Richard's only daughter for a fling? Guy's got lousy taste. Word is Sterling's on the brink of bankruptcy because of this. Serves him right." Every comment reached Chase's ears. His face turned ashen. How stupid he'd been, his future once dazzling, his family perfect, his career golden, until he couldn't keep his pants zipped and threw it all away. He'd lost the love he'd held in his own hands. He dropped to his knees, ignoring the contempt around him, begging the woman he'd once cherished. "Grace, you spent 7 years with me. Your kindness made me think you'd forgive anything. I never thought you'd be this ruthless. After you left, the whole world changed. I was wrong. Please, one more chance. I'll love you the way you deserve." In the past those words might have melted me. Now they made me nauseous. Chase didn't love me. He was panicking because the obedient woman he'd controlled had slipped free. He could no longer toggle between me and Livia at will. I gave a cold laugh and walked away without looking back. He tried to grab me, but the bodyguard behind me stepped in. "Sir, if you keep following the young lady, we'll get unpleasant." Chase's face was bloodless. He lay on the pavement in despair. Mad with grief, he hammered the ground until thin streaks of blood striped his knuckles. No matter how bitterly he begged, I never glanced back. "Chase, you never deserved my love. Grace, keep walking forward." 08. Without the Vance empire quietly propping it up, and with Chase's reputation in ruins, Sterling declared bankruptcy a few months later. That same night, pregnant Livia demanded a breakup and $500,000 for a termination. During the fight, Chase shoved her against the corner of a table. "If not for you, Grace and I would be a happy family of 3 right now." Doubled over, Livia clutched her belly, blood pooled beneath her. When they reached Riverdale Hospital, the baby was gone, and doctors said she would never conceive again. Enraged, Livia called the police. Chase was convicted of assault and shipped to the state penitentiary. By the time he was released, his mind had cracked. He'd spent his days buying crates of cheap liquor, getting blind drunk on the curb. Muttering to himself, he'd sob and scream, prompting neighbors to complain. Sometimes he'd dive into a trash bin, rummaging and murmuring, "I remember Grace tossed her wedding ring here, why can't I find it?" Watching his lunacy, I felt nothing. He'd earned every ounce of misery. Years later, my parents arranged for me to meet Pierce, a scion of an equally pedigreed family. We met, dated, got engaged, married, everything unfolded like silk. 2 blue blood clans allied. The wedding was spectacular. At the ceremony, Pierce slid the ring onto my finger before everyone and spoke his vow. "Grace, you are the light of my life. I will never fail you." His face held no jest, no impatience, only earnestness. For reasons I can't explain, I believed him completely. I began to picture the life ahead. Married life was sweet. Pierce treated me like treasure. 2 hearts, 1 house, 3 meals, 4 seasons. We'd stroll at dusk, hands entwined beneath the street lamps. He'd tease me for being silly, kiss me, shower me with praise. Each night we fell asleep in each other's arms as if time had frozen in tenderness. Best of all, he gave me constant, quiet certainty. One evening, an unfamiliar number lit up my iPhone. A frail voice whispered, "Grace, I have terminal cancer, doctors give me a month. Can you see me one last time?" "No, please." I said no. Pierce walked over with a cup of steamed milk. "Who's upsetting my Grace?" I wrinkled my nose at him and ended the call. Spam call, so annoying. I lifted the steamed milk and drank every drop. Sunlight poured through the window, outlining the 2 of us in warmth. Sure enough, summoning the courage to say goodbye earns you a brand new beginning. I make your heart flutter, you give my soul peace. Surely that is the greatest happiness. Thanks for listening to today's story. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If you liked this video, hit like and share it with friends. We look forward to your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more great stories. See you next time.